Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn an awesome framework which is Nestjs. We are going to learn this framework by building RESTful CRUD APIs. We are going to build a backend server, guys. We are not going to build any front-end application. Okay, before getting into the Nestjs, subscribe my channel and like this video. Okay guys, with that said, let's move to the introduction part of the video. Basically, what is Nestjs? Nestjs is a framework used to build Node.js server-side application. It is basically a framework like Express.js. If you are already familiar with the concepts of Express.js, it is very simple for you to learn Nest.js. Here, it also has a special feature. It completely supports TypeScript. If you want something on the backend which completely supports TypeScript, Nest.js is going to be a good option for you. Basically, Nest.js is inspired from the Angular framework which we use in the front end, right? Basically, Nest.js is like backend Angular. Okay guys, this is the brief introduction about Nest.js. Now let me show you the two major concepts which we use in the Nest.js application. One is controllers and another one is providers. Okay, let's get into the controllers part. Okay, for a web application, the main function is to handle the incoming request and returning the response, right? Here, there is a concept called controllers. Basically, controllers are responsible for handling incoming requests and returning the response. To be very simple, the routing mechanism, like which response has to send for the which request is handled by the controllers. The complete routing mechanism controls the controllers. Okay guys, before learning Nest.js, make sure you are comfortable with using decorators and what is the use of decorators, because in Nest.js we are going to use decorators a lot. Here you can see, in order to use a controller, we are going to use a decorator called @controller, not a lone controller. Because in Nest.js, if you want to do something, there is a decorator for that. So make sure you are comfortable with using decorators. Okay guys, with that said, let's move to the providers. Providers are just basically plain JavaScript classes, but before getting into provider, make sure you are already familiar with the concept of dependency injection. Basically, dependency injection means, consider if you have a class called A, it has many methods, and a class called B, but the methods in the class A are not going to be used by the class A, but those methods are going to be used by the another class called class B. It means those methods in the class A are going to be injected as a dependency to the class B. Okay guys, if it sounds confusing, don't worry, I will make it clear while we are coding. Just remember, providers means there are some methods which going to be used by some other class, not by itself, by some other class. Like there are many methods in provider class. Those methods are going to be used by controllers, because in controllers we are not going to write any extra logic or complex logic. In providers, it is a plain JavaScript class, so there we are going to write our logic. Those methods are going to be injected in controllers. Okay, in order to use this provider, there is a decorator. Okay, make sure you are familiar with decorators, because why I am keeping repeating this is decorator plays major role in Nest.js, so make sure you are familiar with using decorators. I hope you have get something. If you don't understand anything, just continue this video. When we go to the coding part, things will get understand. Before creating our Nest application, let me show you a tool which is Postman. This is the Postman tool, guys. As I said before, we are not going to create any front-end application. We are just creating only back-end APIs. We have to test it right. This tool help us to test our APIs. So make sure you have Postman in your computer. It is very simple to download, guys. Just hit over Google and type postman.org. You can install it, or click the link below in the description box to install Postman. Make sure to install, don't use the online version. Sometimes it doesn't work that much perfectly, so make sure to install it. Okay guys, with that said, for our database purpose, we are going to use MongoDB. You can use whatever the database you like, whether You can use a MongoDB Compass. I'm using the MongoDB Atlas because it gives 500 MB for free, which is in the cloud. If you are also using MongoDB, make sure in the security section in the network access you are adding your current IP address, otherwise it doesn't gonna work, guys. So make sure in the network access to add your current IP address or allow access from anywhere. I'm going to add my current IP address. It will be deleted after 6 hours, so I can say confirm. Okay guys, it will update our database. After that, get into the database access. Make sure to add a new user. Here you can see I have two users. This user is admin user, this user is read and read write any database. So make sure to create a new database user with the role of read write any database. Let me click on add new database user. Here you can see it will give you two columns, one is username and password, and just after giving it, just say add user. It will add a user for you, but I am not going to do that. I already have a user. Just I need the password. I will copy it sometime later when we are connecting with our application. Okay guys, these are the tools. One is Postman, another one is MongoDB as the database. Now let's hit over Nest documentation. For that you have to say Nestjs docs. It will take you to the official documentation. Just click on the top link which you get. It must be Nestjs. Okay guys, this is the complete Nestjs documentation. If you want to learn everything about Nestjs, just come to this documentation. They have an excellent documentation. Just go through this documentation. You will learn everything about Nestjs. Okay guys, let's get into the installation part. Before installing Nestjs, make sure you have Nodejs in your computer. For checking Nodejs, you have to say Ctrl-Alt-T to open terminal. Just say node dash dash version. It will give me a version. Here you can see guys, I have node in my computer. After getting node, just make sure you have npm in your computer. For checking npm, you have to say npm dash dash version. I think 8.1.2. okay guys, after that, now you have to install Nestjs. Just copy this, paste it in your command prompt or terminal. It will install Nestjs for you. I have already installed Nestjs in my computer, so that's why I'm not going to install it once again. Okay, for installing Nestjs, I'm going to say, sorry, for checking Nestjs, I have to say Nest version. Here you can see guys, I am getting a Nest version. It means I have successfully installed my Nestjs. We have Nestjs in our computer. Now let's create our first application. For creating Nest project, you have to say, here you can see this is the command for creating Nest project. Now let's say Nest new. Let me name it as, we are going to build a CRUD application, right? Let's say CRUD REST app. You can name whatever you wish. It really doesn't matter. Just say it, enter. It will begin to install the project. Here you can see guys, it is asking for the package manager. Just make sure which package do you need. I hope you guys are majorly using npm. If you are using yon, then go with it, or if you are continuing with npm, just say enter. It will begin installation process. We successfully created our Nest project. Now let's get into our project and open our code editor. For getting into the project, you have to say just say change directory. Here you can see they have given this. Just say CRUD and hit tab. It will autocomplete for you. Now hit enter. Okay guys, now we are in the folder of our application. Now let's open our Visual Studio Code. For opening Visual Studio Code using terminal, you have to say code and a space and a dot. It will open Visual Studio Code for us. Here you can see guys, terminal opens Visual Studio Code. In the left hand side we have all our files. Here you can see guys, we have our node modules, we have our source folder which is our main folder. We will get to it later. After that we have our test folder. Basically Nestjs gives tons of boilerplate. don't worry about that, guys. You have to care about the source folder, because that's where we are going to write the logic, that's where we are going to write our application. And we have .git ignore, and we have package log.json, package.json, which we see in express.js, right? If you are already familiar with the concepts of express.js, then learning Nestjs is going to be super simple, right? So make sure you are already, so if you have some experience on express.js, then it is simple for you. Because why I am saying express.js, because Nestjs, under the hood, Nestjs makes use of express.js. On the top of express, Nestjs is working. Basically a framework is running under the Nestjs, which is express.js. So that's why I am saying express.js. Okay, with that said, let's open our source folder. There we have our controller, module, service, and main.js. I already said about controllers, service, but I didn't speak about module. Okay, we will get to it later, which is the main app. Now let's talk about main.ts, which is very important file for an Nest.js application. Okay, here you can see, guys, we have our Nest factory from Nestjs core and a app module, which is here. Here you can see we have a single function. This bootstrap function is responsible for initializing our application. Here you can see our app is listening on a port number 3000, and our app has been created by Nest. So that's why we are using this class and a method from that class, which is create. We are just asking Nestjs to create an application from this module. Okay, Nestjs will accept our module and create an application. That's it. This is the function of main.ts. Now let's come to app.module, which is a very important file. Here you can see, guys, that is a module decorator. So that's why we are using decorators a lot in Nestjs. So make sure you are familiar and comfortable to use decorators. Okay, this module decorator accepts three params. One is imports, controllers is, which is nothing but handling the incoming requests and returning responses, and providers, where we are building our logics. Import is something I didn't speak yet. Just keep imports as empty for now. I will explain it later. But let's go to controllers, which handles the incoming request, right? See, we have our controller decorator. It means this class is a controller, and here we have a method which is responsible for get request. If someone hit get request to this current port number 3000, it just responds this service. Okay, now let's go to our service, what they have written. Here you can see just they are returning a hello world, a simple string. Here you can see we have injectable decorator, because those method in this class are going to be injected in this controller. So that's why we have to specify this decorator here, otherwise we cannot able to inject this method to this controller. Okay, guys, now let's speak about inputs. Consider now we are creating now we are going to build a simple application, so that's why we don't need any other extra features. But consider if you are creating a big application, consider if you are writing a e-commerce application, there we have many features like product, customer, and cart, and more. There we have to create many folders. Within the source folder we cannot write every single logic, or within this app.service we cannot able to write thousands of codes. At last we will mess up with the codes. So that's why we are going to create many folders and many files. There, if we create any subfolder, we have to import that folder in this app module, in this import section. Otherwise, if we forget to include that folder, we cannot able to use that feature. Okay, guys, without saying that, let me demonstrate you. For example, consider if you are building a e-commerce website, there we need a product section, right? What will you do? You will create a folder for that inside the source folder. Okay, let's do that, right? Without saying, just let me do that. first of all we have to get into the source folder. For that you have to change directory source. After that we have to create a directory. For that you have to say make dir let me name it as prod. It really doesn't matter, let me name it as prod. After that in the prod you have to create this all file like touch prod dot module dot ts, and we should have our prod dot controller dot ts, and we also need something for writing logic, which is prod dot service dot ts. Here you can see we successfully created everything. Now this has to be imported in this module, in this main app module, otherwise we cannot use that logic, right? What Nestjs offers us is you don't have to do all this stuff manually. Just I am giving you a simple command. Just run the command, you will get everything done. Okay, let's do that command and you will get to understand, right? Don't confuse yourself, guys. After running that command you will get to know and you will get things clear. Okay, before that let me delete this module or this folder, not this module. Let me delete this product folder. Okay, it will ask for move to trash. Okay guys, let me get out of from it. Oh, okay, now let's run that command. For running that command you have to say nest generate a resource. You don't have to create every single file manually. Just run this command. Nest does all heavy lifting work for you. Run this command. Okay, now we have to name it as prod. It really doesn't matter what you name it, but you have to careful with this letter. Nest G means generate, resource, whatever the name, it really doesn't matter. Just listen on these imports, guys. You will see changes here. Okay guys, here you can see it is asking whether it is a REST API or GraphQL or microservice. We are going to use REST API, right? Just say REST API. Just say yes. It will generate for you. Here you can see, guys, previously import is empty, but here we have our prod module, which is just now created by this command, and it is automatically added to the app module. If you forget to add this in the app module, we cannot able to use that service. So please make sure, if you are building a big application, if you are having many folders, make sure to import in the source, make sure to import in the app module, otherwise it never gonna work. Now we don't need this. Let's delete this and let me remove the prod module, which we don't need, but we need something interesting, which is mongoose, because we have to connect our application with the MongoDB, right? For that you have to say npm install mongoose. Another one is at nestjs/mongoose. Okay, it will begin to install. Now let's delete this extra unnecessary folder, which is prod. We don't need that because we are going to build a simple application, right? Here you can see, guys, we successfully installed a mongoose and nestjs/mongoose. Now we have to connect our application with MongoDB. For connecting our application with MongoDB, let's go to MongoDB Atlas. Added current IP address in the network access. Now let's get into the database, which is in the deployment section. Click on the database. Here you will get the option of connect. Just click on the connect. Here you can see we have three options. One is MongoDB shell with our application, and another one is MongoDB compass. Here we are going to connect with our application because our application is already ready, which is Nestjs. Just click on connect, just copy this URI and get back to this. Now we have to use a method from the mongoose. So for that we have to say mongoose module, which is imported from nestjs/mongoose, not from the mongoose. It is imported, sorry, it is imported from nestjs/mongoose, and there we have a feature called for root. Here we have to specify, here you can see it is asking for the URI. We have to specify the URI which we copied from the MongoDB Atlas. Let's say Control V. Here we have to change the username and password. My username is Saul Amit. This user, just close this and come to the database access. This user, this guy Saul Amit. Now let me say edit password, just auto generate, just copy that. Now you have to say update user, otherwise it doesn't gonna work. So make sure you are clicking the update user. Okay, after doing this, let's paste that password. Okay, I successfully paste it out. With this done, now let's run our application whether we have any error with connecting MongoDB or not. For running our application in the development mode, you have to say npm run start colon, and you have to specify dev for running our application in the development mode. Okay, it will take some time to run. It says starting compilation mode, watch mode, compilation in watch mode. Here you can see guys, we have 0 errors, but it says unable to connect with database. But what went wrong? Yes, because I forgot to remove this. Now let's save this and do check it out. Here you can see guys, we don't have any error. It means we successfully connected to MongoDB. Now let's write our logic. Okay, now let's go to the service file which we initially saw at the presentation, right? Here we have to write our all logics. Okay, before getting into logic, saving users and reading users and deleting users, before that we have to create models. Okay guys, now let's create a file for creating models. Before creating models, we have to create schemas, right? Schema is something, we have a schema. The difference between a schema and model is something which is telling the database these are the data which we are going to save in the database. But schema is something asking the models these are the data which I am going to give you, and you have to save it in the database. Okay, now let's first create our schema file. For creating schema file, let me get into the source folder and let's say users. This is gonna be super simple project guys. Just we are going to save a user. The user going to have a username and a description which is editable, and a date which is going to be default. That's it. We are going to save these 3 data in the database. We can read the data, we can update the data, and we can create a new data, and we can able to delete that data. This is the 4 simple operations which is CRUD operations. Okay, let me say user schema .ts. Oh, let me spell correctly, schema .ts, or let me say it as models. Whatever the name, it really doesn't matter. Just say user.model.ts. It will create a file for us. Oh, sorry guys, before that I forgot to say touch. Okay, here you can see we have our models file. Now let's first create a class. Okay, let me say export, let me name it as user, and this user is going to have 3 properties. One is username, which is in the string format, and another one is description, which is also in the format of string. Okay, another one is date added, which is going to be in the format of date. Okay, now this class is going to be used as a schema. For converting this class as the schema, we are going to use a decorator called schema. Okay, which is imported from Nestjs/mongoose. Okay, now we have to say the brackets over there. Now these properties are going to be act as the prop of this schema. Prop is also property, right? Okay, the properties of these schemas are username, description and date, right? See here, you can see this prop is also imported from the Nestjs/mongoose, and we have to say this description is also a property of that schema. Okay, and we have to do the same. Okay, but here we have to specify something which is default is date dot now. Not name now. Okay guys, why I am saying here default is because the date is going to be added by itself by automatically. We don't have to specify the date over every time when we create a user. Nestjs takes care of it because here we have specified it default, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay guys, we successfully created a schema. Now we have to do something different in Nestjs. Just get into the documentation in the technique use in the Mongo. Just click on the Mongo. They say we are done with this, we are done with the root, and we are complete with this. Now we have to import document. Okay, now we have to import document, right? DUSUMENT from mongoose. Okay, after importing document from the mongoose, we have to do something cool. Export type, which is going to be user document. If you don't understand this line, just follow the code. I will explain it later. Just say user and symbol, not dollar symbol, document. Okay guys, if you don't understand this line, just follow the code. I will explain it to you later. Okay, now we have to export it, right? Now we have to say export cons. Still now this schema is not completely created as a schema. We have to create this schema. For that we have to say a variable. Here you can name it whatever you wish, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to say user schema. Let me say schema factory. I think schema factory dot create for a class. This class is now completely transformed as a schema. Okay guys, here we are done with this. We are just creating a class. After that we are using the schema decorator for converting it as a schema, and here we are exporting this schema by using this class schema factory and a method called create factory and a method called create for class. And here we have our property username, description, which are strings, but date added is a default value which is added by Nestjs automatically. We don't have to worry about that. But here we have a special line, we will come to it later. Now let's go to the app.service. Here before getting into the app.service, let's get into module, because this schemas has to be registered in the app modules, otherwise it never gonna work. Okay, for doing that, say a comma here and just say mongo module. Now we have to say for feature. Still now we are just connected with MongoDB and we have create and we have created schema, and still now we didn't create models. For creating models, you have to say, first you have to specify a name. Now I am specifying it as users because we are going to save users details, right? So don't have to worry about that. And here we have to specify our schema. Our schema is nothing but user schema, which just now we created, right? You have to manually import it. VS Code does take care the work. Here you can see, guys, we successfully imported the user schema and specified here. We are done with the feature also. Don't forget to add this in the imports, guys, otherwise it's never gonna work. Just follow this step, otherwise you will, don't forget to follow this step, guys, otherwise Nestjs won't work. Otherwise you will end up with what the hell is happening, why this is not working. So don't forget to follow the procedure. Okay, we successfully added to it in the import section. After that, let's get into the service where we write our logic. Okay, before writing our logic, let's import our user, I think so. After that, user document from user dot models, right? Why it's showing error? Come on, what went wrong? Okay, from import user dot models dot ts. Okay, guys, we successfully import this. After that, we have to import a special thing, which is models from mongoose. Okay, guys, don't forget to import the model because we are going to use it here. Now we don't need this, just delete this guy. Just create a constructor here, and we are not going to write any logic for that constructor, but here we are going to use a decorator, which is at inject model, which is imported from the mongoose model. I forgot to import it, but VS Code imports for us. Inside this, we have to say the same name which we specified in the app.module. Here you can see this same name I am specifying in the service. After that, we have to create our models. Here you can see, guys, nowhere in our models we didn't create our model file, just we are creating a class and converting into schema, and this schema is registered as a model in the MongoDB. Still now we didn't create any models yet. We are not going to create it, but here you can see we have a special line, right? Before getting into that line, let me complete this. After that you will get to understand. Read only. Here let me name as user model, and here we have to say model model, which is this model imported from the mongoose, and this user document, see this document, this user document is used here where in the service.ts for converting it as user model. Okay, guys, we successfully created our schema and we successfully registered our schema as the model in the MongoDB, and we have our model ready. Now we have to write the logic here. First one is create, right? Okay, creating a user. For creating a user, let's say create user, not a different name. Oh, before that, let's say async, because it's going to be a asynchronous call. Let's say async create a user, but okay, let me name it as in the format of camel case. Here this logic is going to be super simple, guys. Just say const new user. Okay, we have to say this dot model user model dot this dot user model. This function takes a param which is user, and this user is created in the MongoDB. After that we have to say new user return. We have to return this, right? New user dot save. Okay, before that here we have to say new, because this is a class, right? So that's why we have to say new here, otherwise it doesn't gonna work. This user should be in the format of, in the type of user, this user class. See this user class, this user has to be in the format of username, description and date adder. Okay, and it has to return a promise which is also in the format of user. Okay guys, we are done with the logic of creating a user. Now we have to register it in the controllers. Okay, here we don't need this guy. Now we have to use post method for creating, we have to use for reading. For creating we have to use post method, for reading we have to use get method. For creating you have to say post. Let's name okay, let's create a function. It is also be a async function. Let me name the same which I write in the service. Here also I am saying create user. In the same in the service file also I am saying create user. It really doesn't matter, you don't have to worry about that. And this method has to return, because we are not going to write any logic in the controllers. The controllers only thing is to handling the incoming request. The incoming request is here a post request, so for that it has to return a response, right? The response is going to be this dot app service dot a method which is create user, but it is asking for a user, right? Where we are going for that? Okay, now let's name is user, but where we are going for that user, this user is going to be coming from front end, but we don't have any front end application ready. We are going to use Postman, and in the Postman here you can see, just say this plus icon, it will give you a new workplace. Just say plus. Here you can see guys, we have our new workspace. Here you can see it is asking for enter request URL, and it is also giving whether what type of request it is, get or post or put patch. There are tons of methods here, we don't have to bother about that. If it is post request, here we have something called body, and here we have URL form, URL encoded data. Something here in the front end, there is something called body. In the body we are getting data. For that we have to say body here, because the data is going to be coming from the front end in the body. So for that we have to say body here. It is also going to be imported from the Nestjs/common. See, VS Code automatically imports for me. And here we have something different in the Nestjs to create DTOs. DTO mean data transfer object. It is specifically for Nestjs, you don't see in the Express.js, but in Nestjs you have to do this, otherwise we cannot able to get the data. If we don't have this class, we have to create DTO manually, but fortunately we have this class. This class can be used as DTO. Okay, now let's say user DTO, which is user. Okay, import it. Okay, it successfully imported it. Now we can send this param, it really does matter. Okay, user DTO, right? Okay, I spelled it wrong, so that's why it shows error. Okay guys, we are done with the logic of creating user. Now let's check it whether it has any error or not. Okay guys, we don't have any error. Let's get back to the API. I successfully created a workspace, and just say post request, because we are going to send a post request to this 0.01. I hope the endpoint is 3000. and it is going to be a post request. Here we have to say username, which is Sahul, and a description, right? Let's get back to the models and check what are the data it is asking for. It is a description. Just copy this and just paste it over here. Oh, sorry guys, description better, I can write it. Description. Let me say my description is, this is nothing. Okay, let's say send. MongoDB has to store it. This is the logic which we have written in this service, right? We are just saying, just save this new user, nothing more fancy. Just say send. It has to return the created user. I hope it will return. Here you can see guys, we get our username ID, but we left our description, right? What went wrong? I think I misspelled it, so that's why it doesn't work. DESCRIPTION, DESCRIP descript. Let me copy this and paste it once again here. But what went wrong? Why it doesn't work? Here you can see guys, now this time it successfully created description, username. I think in the past I forgot, I think in the past I misspelled the description spelling, so that's why it doesn't create it. But now it created a user for us. Okay guys, with this done, let's get into the MongoDB and check whether the user is there or not. I think we may have two user in our collection. Okay, just click on browse collection. Here you can see guys, I have many data because I have done this before creating this video, so that's why it is showing 4 data. I forgot to delete this. Now let me delete all this file and rerun that method once again for you. Okay, delete this guy also. Okay, click on delete. Okay, click on delete. Okay guys, now let me rerun this once again and check it in the database. This time let me say this is testing, not nothing. Testing. Let me say send. It has to return the same. Here you can see guys, we have our description, username, and here you can see date adder. I didn't specify the date adder, but Nestjs takes care of it. We don't have to worry about that. Now let me refresh it. Here you can see guys, we have our single data which is just now created. Okay guys, we successfully completed. Okay guys, we are done with our create logic. Now let's get our read logic. For that we don't need our models, I think so. Just close this file, and we don't even need this also. Now let's go with the read logic. For that, let's say reading the user collection. Okay, let's say async read user. Here we don't need any param for that, just we have to return the user. For that you have to say return this dot user model dot find. Here you have to specify a empty object, because you don't have to specify a ID number to find or username to find. We have to get every single data. For that I am specifying here empty. If you want to find some specific data, you can say username as a goal to get this single data, but we need every single data. For that I am saying here, what is that, empty object. If you need something specifically, you can specify that data, but we need everything. Okay, after that we have our callback. If it has any error, I think we have our callback. After that there is user. Okay, if first of all we have to handle error, just say console log the error. If we don't have any error, return user. Okay, after that here we have to specify new true. Okay, I think we are done with this. Just say control save. We are done with our logic. Now let's get into the app.controller and say we have get request, because we are going to read the data, not going to write or update. Just say async, not async, just say read user, just return this dot app service dot read user. That's it, nothing more fancy. Now let's get back and say, before saying get request, let me add another one user, which is Sahul one, and this is testing one, because in the get request we have to get two user. Here you can see guys, we successfully create another one user. Now let's say get, we have to get two users, because we are reading every single data in the database. Oh, it says error, what went wrong? It means I have done something wrong. I think better I can go with dot then and dot catch. It's not working perfectly fine. Let me say dot then. If there is a user, just return the user. Okay, let's add the curly braces over there. If it has any user, just return it. Or otherwise, if it has any error, just say in the catch block, just console log the error. Don't do anything fancy, just console log this error. Don't have to worry about that error. Okay guys, I think this time it will work perfectly fine. Just say Ctrl S to save this file. Just get back to this and hit send for the get request for reading the collection. Here you can see guys, we successfully get the two data. One is Sahul, another one is Sahul 1. It means we can able to read the data and create the data. We are done with our CR. Now we have to work on update. For that you have to say updating the data. It is also going to be a async or as function. Let's say async. Let's say update user. This time it has to take a param, which is id. Okay, let's say return this dot user model dot find by id and update. Initially we use find method for reading every single data in the database, but there also we use empty object. Here we are using the method which is find by id. It means we have to specify the id here and the data which is going to be updated, right? Here we have to specify the data. Okay, just update the data, and we have to specify here something which is new is going to be true. Okay guys, if you are not familiar with this new true, don't worry about this, just go with the flow. Okay, with this done, I think it returns a promise which is also in the format of user. Okay, add this. Okay, with this done, now let's get to our controllers, because there we are writing our logic, there we are handling our incoming request. This request is going to be put. Just say put, VS Code automatically imports for you. Here we have to specify a id which is not a static one, a dynamic one. What this colon actually refers mean, this route is not static, this is dynamic. Okay, let's say create, oh, it is also going to be a async one. Just say update, you don't have to think a different name for that. Here we have to say at param. Initially we get the data from the body, but this time for getting id we are going to use param. So for that we are saying here param, we are taking this id. Okay, this id refers to this id, and we have to write it here outside. id is also in the format of string. Okay, we are done with getting the id, but we have to create dto, right? Because for posting any data or updating data in Nestjs we have to create dto. We didn't create any dto for creating user because we used this file which is model file as dto, but now we need a dto. Okay, just create a dto because we are going to update only the description section, not the username section. Username section is not updatable. We are going to update only description. For updating we are doing some kind of a post request, right? For doing something first request we compulsory should have the dto. If we don't have dto, Nestjs won't work, so we have to create dto. Let me say touch user update dot dto dot ts. dto is not something different, guys, which is also a class. That's it. dto stands for data transfer object, which is a class. Here a class, this is also a class, user update dto. I am saying it as user update dto. Our updatable field is only description, not something username, because username is fixed one, we don't have to update it. Okay, copy this line and paste it here. That's it, guys. This is a dto. A class is a dto, nothing more fancy, nothing. Okay, just come to the controllers. Now here we have to specify the update dto, right? Let me name it as update, and let's specify it as user update dto. Okay, now we have to return this dot app service dot update. Here you can see it is asking for two things. One is id, which is getting from the param, and another one is data, which is the dto. Let's say update. Okay, that's it. We are done with this. Let me name it as update data. Okay, name it as same here. It is showing here error is because Nestjs forget to import put. Okay, we successfully import the method called put. Now it will disappear that error. Here you can see, guys, we successfully disappear that error. Now here we have an error. Why it is showing error unexpected argument? Because I unfortunately forget to say okay, let me take it to a new line. Here I unfortunately forget to say body, because the update field also having a body, right? So for that we have to specify body here. That's it. We are done with this. Before that, say a comma here. id is coming from the param and this data is coming from the body. That's it. Don't confuse yourself. Okay, this also returns a promise, right? Which is promise user, which is also the user. Okay, I think we are done with our update user. We are done with create, trade and update. Now let's check our update, why it is showing a error. Okay, the error disappear. Let's save this file and check whether we have any error or not. I hope we don't have any error. Okay, now let's go to Postman. Okay guys, here we are done with our post request and get request. Now we have to go for our put request. Okay, but we need a ID. See guys, I am copying the ID of Sahul. Just copy this ID and paste it over here. Now you will get to know things clearly. Here you can see guys, this is the path which I am specified here. This is a dynamic ID, so that's why I have specified a colon over there, because it is dynamic. Later this ID also used here for updating this user. I am using Sahul's ID to update Sahul's description. Okay, let's close this. Okay, let's say testing is updated. Okay, let's say send. Here you can see guys, this testing is we get here this testing is updated, because why we are getting the new one is I already specified the new here. If I forgot to specify the new, it doesn't show like this, it doesn't show like that, but it updates that. If you don't believe me, just say, here you can see guys, this testing is up. I am sending the request. This shows the old data. If you don't believe me, just say get request, and this time we get the user with the updated description, right? Here you can see guys, we are getting the updated description, but we didn't get when we do to the put method. So for that you have to specify new here. If you don't specify the new, it doesn't gonna specify the updated, it doesn't gonna give you the updated version. So don't forget to say true here. Okay guys, we are also done with the updating and for the deleting the data, which is the last part of CRUD, which is CRUD, deleting the data. Okay, it is also going to be a async operation. Let's say delete user. It is also as a ID, because you have to specify, right, which user has to be deleted. For that you have to use the method. For deleting the user from the database, there is a method called, oh, I'm misspelling here, return this dot user model dot find. Here you can see find and delete, or better you can say find and remove. I think both do the same job. Here you have to specify the ID. That's it guys. Okay, now let's say save. Let's get back to the controller. That we have to specify the same. Now we have to say add delete. Okay, hit enter. Make sure whether VS Code imports for you or not. Here you can see VS Code automatically imports for us. Now we have to say the path as dynamically, because we don't know which user wants to delete. Okay, now this is also going to be a async call. Let's say delete user. Okay, ID is coming from the param. Okay, just say ID here. Okay, by the way, why I am saying the string format is because the ID is in the format of string, so that's why I said string here, ID string. Okay, this returns the app service dot delete method. That's it. It is asking for ID. Okay guys, I hope that's it. Let's get to the browser and let's get to the Postman and check. Okay, now we want to delete, let's say delete, we want to delete who? We want to delete Sahul one, not Sahul. Okay, this is testing one, this is Sahul one ID. Just copy this, just paste it over here. Make sure you are in the delete method. Just say send, it has to delete the user. Here you can see guys, it returns the deleted user. Okay, now let's say get, we have to get the single data which is Sahul, not Sahul 1. Here you can see guys, we have only one data which is Sahul. It means we are also successfully done with the delete method. Okay guys, this is the code. This is a pretty simple application. This